sure some of you are aware, but this comes from Agra. Most of you know I just came back from India and China, and I watched them making this. And that is gold. And these are made by families of people. And it's silk, and the thread that's used is cotton with gold laid over it. And although I mispronounced the price this morning, this cost about $26 American. Amazing. You may touch it after the service. So. I have three announcements I want to be sure you all hear. One is that the Youth Education Department is really going to need help for their summer experience, July 8th through 12th. And also they're going to need some special people to offer assistance 1 or 2 Sundays during the summer, so we can give our regular teachers a break from those kids. And if you can help, and if there's any little light that goes on that says you would like to help, would you please sign up in the bookstore or talk to Margaret after the service. We really do need your support, as always. Then we have now, the directory has finally been printed that we initiated in March. It's called the, I think it's clever, the people associated with the Unity community whom you can count on, and I would assume trust. And they are set up in sections like accounting, astrology, auto repair, catering, computers, consulting, health, housekeeping, house sitting, hypnotherapy, sports, water purification, sewing, secretarial, etc. So you just look through for the column, and listed there is the name with the phone number and address, so you may make contacts. We have a suggested love offering price on this of $1, and that's certainly pretty good, I think. And if you can't afford it, you may take one, but we didn't want everybody to just grab one and run. Then the other thing is that this booklet of mine is now available. It's fresh off the press. It's called The Enigmas of Life. You recall I had a terrible summer, and so I brought back the fruits of how I dealt with it. And now here it's finally here. These are the lessons from October through December of this fall. Some of the wonderful titles were, and maybe you need this right now, Dealing with Traumatic Shock, Rebuilding a Pummeled Ego, Loving Again Someone You Can't Stand. Aren't these terrific? Living with an intolerable situation, Forgiving the Unforgivable. And so it goes. So if you need guidance in that area, it's very good. I need you to relax this morning and come into being with me for probably 20 minutes. We've had a long service and we will run over. And it will not be my fault. So you got to kind of relax and try to be here, because what I have to share with you is especially important to me, because I think it's a special inspiration. I think most of you know it. This is nothing new. And yet we all need this reminder. And hopefully I'll give it to you from not only an ethereal, poetic realm this morning, but also from a scientific, proven realm this morning. I'd like to give you both. I am sure that not everybody in this room this morning is completely comfortable. And I don't mean physically comfortable. I mean when you walk through those doors this morning and put yourself in this chair, I am sure you brought with you your life and the discomforts of your life. It seems to be the human condition that never does anything all come together at the same point and the same point, at a point of agreement where we can relax and say, ha. It seems as if what we are given is little plates to keep moving. And we're like jugglers, and sometimes you're lucky and you only have to keep 3 going. And sometimes you have 15, and you know how that runs? 1 minute you're working on your weight, the next minute you're working on your relationship, or you go to some workshop and it gets even more bonkers. And then you're working on your financial issues, and then your kid issues, and then your relationship with God issues, and just as you get this one going really well, you turn around and you say, oh my God, and you have to get this one moving and moving and moving. So it seems as if the statement of life is, you will never have it all together once harmonious in one place. Now, there's one thing you can do about that. You can quit. Another thing is to be frustrated and aggravated and kick God and assume that God intended it some other way. Another thing you can do is smile. And then you can also get elevated and think, this is a real kick, this is fun. Now, I frankly would prefer to think this is a kick, this is fun, and enjoy the ball game. What tends to be the tendency with us is that we always want things right, and then we'll feel good inside. And we have an assumption about how God manifests, and the way God manifests is harmoniously, right? When you feel good, then God's active. When you don't, God's rotten or left you out. This is not only prevalent in our personal lives, this is also prevalent in our life all around us, which tends to keep you going with the aggravation. And the way it's prevalent in the rest of our life is that if you pick up a newspaper, you'll notice that newspapers enjoy, because it allows for better sales, enjoy it when they can give you the toughest things that are going on, the horror schemes. We know clearly that vice and viciousness and difficulty on television keeps people tuned in. Wasn't it terrible what happened to Bobby the other night? I mean, I felt lost all day. Did any of you watch Dallas? I mean, I haven't watched Dallas all year, and that's the truth, but I had to turn in. Do you know what happened? That beautiful man got shot. But, you know, there's another statement. Soap operas, you know, they keep us clued in by aggravation. I don't know if you get this way with them, but that antagonizes me. I don't need to tune into all of that aggravation to keep me going. I have enough of that. I have a congregation of 5,000, you know. That's enough to keep me aggravated if I want to be aggravated. Also, we can see that this kind of attitude of fear, you see, it's a fear mechanism, and there's nothing wrong with fear. You know that. You know that fear is a part of life, and letting fear be present is probably one of the most powerful ways to live with life, is to let it be present. Not to have to get rid of it in order to be happy, but to understand fear is a part of life. But there is also a way of being with life where fear is your motivator, where fear is the thing that turns you on, where fear is what keeps you going. And again, that's all right too. But a lot of people make money off of fear. A lot of churches keep going through fear. A lot of causes are ignited by fear. In other words, the way that you can build a wonderful peace movement is to get people to realize that the earth is going to die and that we are going to blow it up unless we get rid of this and that. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Huh? Are you really? I need a grunt occasionally. A way to keep people in churches is to say, if you don't find out what's right here, what's right and wrong, then you can boil in hell when you die, so keep coming to church and give me your money so that you will be sure that you're right when you die. Of course, you're never quite sure, but that's all right. Now, I'm trying to get you to grapple with this and see what a big motivation this is in life. The Armageddon complex, we could call it. The burn in hell motivation, we could call it. Now, what unity stands for, and what my life stands for the older I get, is an affirmation of something else. It's an affirmation that your life is exactly right, exactly as it is operating right now. There need be no changes. That which we call good fits, and that which we call bad fits. It all plays a part in continuing you in the ever-moving spiral, the arrow, which is the title of my lesson, that is living inside of you and has an intention directing you. I love living according to that law. I believe it is the only law that I can be sure of any more. I'm not sure if my good will come to me if I'm good. I'm not even sure if my bad will come to me if I'm bad. That's kind of a nice, easy way to live. Then you can be whatever you are. What I am sure is that there is a profound operator. And it isn't a man, and it isn't a woman, and it isn't an it. It is an essence that wraps you and that you wrap. It is around you and it is in you. It holds you up and it carries you. It directs you and it shapes you. It moves you and it steers you, and it takes you where you're intended to go to shape you according to the divine energy and intention of this universe. And that involves everybody, everything, and everywhere. When you step into this law, you begin to give up controlling, manipulation, trying to contort it, distort it, arrange it, disarrange it according to your will. You begin to get personality out of the way and become available to be used. As I said, this is not old. This is a reminder, and I hope that it will be an inspired reminder so that you may once again remember and push on with the remembrance that every event of your life is a part of the ball game. That's all. I'd like to read you two things. One is from my own writing, and the other is from Teilhard de Chardin's The Phenomenon of Man. This one I share with you because it might put this into a context that's easier for you to take in, because Chardin is difficult hearing. This that I'm sharing with you, I'm reading because I was asked in a class once to share with people how I saw the activity of the universe, and that when I found myself opening up my mouth to say what I saw it to be, I found that I was deeply touched and in a realm I hadn't spoken in before. So this was taken off the tape, and I'll just read it to you this way. And it's where the title of my lesson came from. There is definitely an arrow that is being pointed through us. I see it in here, you see. And we are in touch with that arrow, and we feel it through our desire to be more than we are at present. And being more than we are at present is all that is necessary for the salvation of humanity or the universe. Because you see, that guiding principle is what shapes and molds us, and then causes us to hunger to be closer to God, which is a paradox. The paradox is you can't be any closer to God than you already are. But you believe that you would be closer to God if you could feel a certain kind of harmony. But you can only feel more harmony when you realize that there is no way to be out of harmony. I love that sound from you all. That's all we're learning. It's your definition that determines in or out of harmony. There is no possibility to be out of harmony, even when you are out of harmony. For out of harmony is being in harmony too. Now, if that doesn't relax your brain, nothing will. So, that arrow of intention is designed within us, and everything is assisting us to fulfill that arrow. And that means the good times and the bad times. Everything is assisting us to fulfill that arrow. And the minute we fulfill one part of the arrow will slip forward again within us, because that is the nature of God, for us to become in tune with that with which we might become. It's just like the myth of the fish becoming the amphibian. It is born inside the fish to become the amphibian. The fish doesn't know what it is going to become. It doesn't even know what land is. But it feels the pull, and with the pull comes the desire to respond to that pull. All I ask is that you feel that. feel it. And as you feel it in your life, when your life pulls you into discomfort, have that mind that understands so that you can participate rather than resist. But even if you resist, appreciate that the resistance is a part of participating with the process. All the way through. Feel it? Good. You see, you don't ever have to come back to church again. Now, this is powerful stuff, right? This is basic principle, right? Now I'd like to read to you Chardin. This is a Jesuit priest, you know, whose writings were hidden from the public eye till after he died because he couldn't share them in his formal faith. He was a biologist who studied over in China and studied the processes, the infinite processes of life. From it he developed his whole philosophy. And I'd like to read to you nearly the end of this. This may not make sense, but if you relax and feel into it, you should be kind of vibrated by it. That's it. That's it. You can keep that. I don't need it anymore. I'm all done. These and other assembled pointers seem to me to constitute a serious scientific proof. A scientific proof, he says. A scientific proof that the group called mankind, that means you and I, far from drifting biologically under the influence of exaggerated individualism toward a state of growing degradation, far from turning to an escape from death through space travel and nuclear explosion, far from simply declining toward a catastrophe or senility, rather, the human group is in fact turning by planetary arrangement and the convergence of all elemental parts of it toward a second critical pole of collective and higher order. It is turning toward a point beyond which we cannot see directly, but toward a point through which we can nevertheless contact through our thought, born of involution upon ourself of the stuff of the universe. And that transcendent focus that is pulling us, drawing us, we call Omega, his word for God. The principle which at one and the same time makes this involution irreversible and moves and gathers it in. That's all of that. Now relax again. You may not have understood that. So I'd like to draw a diagram with words, simplistically. The way Chardin describes it is this. When you study the infinicy, if there's such a word, the infiniteness of the evolution of basic parts of the universe, if you were to take a microscope and examine deeper and deeper and deeper through the gradations of evolution into the cell, the molecule, the atom, and behind that to the granule, which is something we don't even see yet, can't see yet through our microscopes, but we know is there, Chardin states, and most philosophers and saints and scientists agree with this, that it ever increases in quantity. I think you would agree with that too, right? The base spreads out. There's more and more, are you ready, as it gets smaller and smaller, more and more. At the same time, it is clear, and he says this goes against all of the mental thinkings and understandings. At the same time, it gets simpler and simpler until you zero in, if you were able to do this with a microscope, upon one thread, and that one thread holds it all together. That one thread would be his word for the Omega point. It would also be the word of God. And he says you can almost see it. He says if you think that all of those atoms and granules granules are held together because they just come together, you are making a mistake in your logic, because the deeper truth is that they are bound together by a law, by a power. And it isn't just an attracting power, as we've sometimes called it. It is a binding quality. So the reason this wall stands up is because God binds the stuff of it together through a phenomenal law. The reason you stand up and have structure to your body is because Omega Point is pulling upon it in simplicity, at its simplest level. Clear enough? Clear enough? Hey, talk to me. Are you telling me it isn't clear?
Cosmic glue.
Cosmic glue, thank you. See, he could give it and just say cosmic glue, and you'd all go home and say, that's just terrific. Shadon also says that if you were to tip the universe over, just imagine that for a minute, that what you would see would be this, we'll call it cosmic glue, pulling on this at its base. Okay, pulling on it at its base. Now I'd like you to imagine that pulling equally at its top is the same cosmic glue. Have you ever seen designs made like that where they kind of move out like this and then in? Can you feel that? So we're being pulled from the base and we're being pulled from the top. So if you finally twist it like this, it doesn't matter which way you're looking at it. But now I want to talk to you. So far I've been talking about physical dimensions. As we look at the universe and its evolutionary pattern, there is something that's disturbing. The fearmongers, the warmongers, the Armageddon people are right when they say that something dangerous could be happening. Let's wait for you to, you're going to live? We'll give you some, okay, thank you. That which is occurring is that as complexity increases in consciousness, gradually there is a decrease in quantity. Isn't that clear? There are obviously fewer people on Earth than there are granules or atoms or molecules. You staying with this? Keep your mind here. Keep your mind here. Okay. As there is a decrease in the numbers, the law that is causing the decrease is called entropy. It is equivalent to death. So there are a number of scientists, religionists, philosophers who say the law of entropy is at work. Gradually we are aiming into Armageddon, into death, into destruction. And it will happen through the nuclear bomb or people finally scratching each other's eyes out. Chardin had another theory, and it's the one that has to do with the arrow that lives within you. And now I'm giving you scientific proof according to him. He says that with every step in the decrease of quantity, there is an equivalent, ready, increase in quality of consciousness. Now watch my hands, because as one has the courage to interiorize, as one has the courage to enter within, one makes contact with the Omega Point, which is always pulling you from beneath and below toward itself. The Omega Point is love. Its intention is to decrease the quantity, because only through decreasing quantity can the law of entropy be overcome, so that the energy that's lost, listen, is internalized to the within, which causes the expansion, see my hands, of consciousness. I always assume when I'm done with something like this that the whole congregation will stand up and with one voice say, "Yay!" Don't do it. The reason reason for that inside of me is, obviously, it's very important to me. It's very important to me that you capture this within you, that you capture that through the scientific proof or through the visual indicators, that you can capture there's something true about your life. I've already verbalized it, but I'll verbalize it again on this side, meaning at the end of the lesson. And the verbalization is this, that there is a dramatic pull occurring within you. The dramatic pull is pulling you interiorly. Maybe the reason a lot of us who deepen spiritually lose so much externally is because that's a part of the law, to release ourselves from the excesses of the external, the without, so that we might be forced to give ourselves to the expansion of the consciousness within, because you see the salvation of the universe is through interiorization, through expansion of the universe within. That's where the creativity comes from. That's where the answers for the new age comes from. That's where the taking care of the issues of our planet come from. They don't come from butchering the external and maligning it, but from internalizing it so that consciousness expands, and as it expands, we are all expanded, because we all have impact in the whole radial dimension of our expression. So when Unity and Carol Knox teach to participate, they have two simple statements. They are always go within. What do they promise you when you go within? Do they promise you that your life will get better? No. Because life's getting better is a matter of the outer mind, not of the inner focus. Do we promise you that you will expand, that consciousness will leap and move, and you'll see differently? Yes. And when you see differently, will life change externally? Yes. That's the reason that all I protest to anymore in my boring ministry, given through a charming personality, which is its only saving grace, is to practice ongoing prayer. What does that do? That interiorizes, that focuses you on the omega point, whether you understand what the omega point is or not, and you don't, neither do I. But it is the arrow that is pulling you toward wherever it's all going. And why we encourage meditation. Because we understand, once again, that does the deeper work of building the internal spaces. Folks, you are on. You are on target. Your judgments about whether things are going good for you, whether you've taken a step forward or a step back, your judgments about whether your life is in order or not have nothing to do with the truth of what's really occurring, because you and I can't see it. We can use scientific proof and come into agreement with the law is operating. The arrow's on target. The arrow's moving. It's in me. It's in that person next to me and that one next to me. It's in my kid who's on drugs. It's in the rape scenes. It's in wars on many lands. It's in the struggle in the streets here. And it isn't declared by good and bad. It's understanding. It's moving. And what do you do about it? You carry ongoing prayer, you meditate, and you do what you do this moment now as you're led to fulfill the arrow. That's all. These and other assembled pointers seem to me to constitute a serious scientific proof that the zoological group of mankind, far from drifting biologically toward individualism and gradual degradation, far from turning to an escape from death through space travel or nuclear destruction, far from simply declining toward a catastrophe or senility, rather the human group is in fact turning. That means you, in every act, every thought, every maligned agreement, every disagreement, every anger, every fear, every distortion, every enmity, every lust, every hope, every wonderful relationship, every horrible relationship, the human group is turning by planetary arrangement and convergence of all its elemental parts toward a second critical pole of a collective and higher order, toward a point beyond which we can see nothing directly, but a point through which we can nevertheless see a contact between thought and the stuff of the universe. And that transcendent focus that's pulling us is called Omega, the principle which at one and the same time makes this process irreversible and moves and gathers us all in. I beg you to build your life upon it. It's true.